Okay, so I'm back, and now just for clarity, this is demo number two. So I'm going to do something a bit different than I did in the previous one. In demo one, I showed you how to find a Chandra-Mangala yoga. You need to think these through, like how was a yoga formed, and can I describe it in, you know, two, three, four lines of this, simple code that we're going to generate. So sometimes you'll get way too many examples that you want, and then you might want to restrict your criteria, as happened with my Chandra-Mangala yoga. I mean, Moon and Mars together or Moon and Mars opposed, that happens a lot. That happens in 1 out of 6 horoscopes. There are 23,000 data items in this database, with AA data. I don't want to see 4,000 horoscopes in my output. So I restrict that, and I restricted it first by saying I want that Chandra-Mangala yoga to be strong. And I thought this through, and I thought, well, okay, they're strong when they're each in their signs of dignity simultaneously. And, we went through that when Moon is in Cancer and Mars in Capricorn, or Moon in Taurus and Mars in Scorpio, where they're both strong. And even then, I would have got way too many examples, so I restricted it even further, just for purposes of illustration, and said, let them be in kendras. Okay, so now I got strong Chandra-Mangala yoga in kendras. So I got there in 4 lines of code. Let's say and then I also showed you how to, find a Parivartana yoga. And that was simple. That was just 2 lines of code. Lord of X is in Y, while Lord of Y is in X. Okay, so now I want to show you something different. Let's say you have a thesis that, people with Mars ruled ascendants are accident prone, and they're especially accident prone or have troubled lives if their ascendant Lord Mars is in association with Saturn. So, okay, let's say that's a thesis. Just an example of many such theses that might arise, and you can explore them this way. So, what's the first thing I say? I want a Mars-ruled ascendant. So what does that mean? Well, first, then I want to look in these points here, and I can say, well, my ascendant, I want it to be just either Aries or Scorpio. So ascendant, and I have to say, well, that's not a house. I want that ascendant in a certain sign. So I say, I want my ascendant in Aries or my ascendant in Scorpio. Remember, everything we do here is an or. All these when you get multiple choices, you're saying, I want my ascendant in Aries or Scorpio. Obviously, it can't be an and statement. It's not possible. So this looks right. I want to only look at horoscopes that are Mars-ruled lagnas. That looks good. I'm going to generate. Then I'm going to inspect this. Did it come out the way I wanted it to? Yes, the ascendant is in Aries or Scorpio. Okay, now the next part of this is, my thesis is, if the ascendant Lord is with Saturn, that's the kind of people I want to look at. So I'm going to click this button here for Lord, and I'm going to say, we're talking about the first Lord. And now in this instance, I want that Lord, which implicitly must be Mars, because once you create one line of code that says the ascendant is Scorpio, thereafter, if I say I want the first Lord to do this or that, now we are obviously talking about Mars. So this is an or statement, ascendant in Aries and or Scorpio. But the next statement I write will be and. This one line is one factor, and the other one is the other factor, which must also be true. So Lord of the first, I say I want it conjunct some planet. And in this case, I want it conjunct Saturn. That's what I want to see. That's my thesis. I think these people get into trouble. So I want to see, well, okay, what turns up here if I do this? So let me write that line. It looks good. Lord of the first is conjunct Saturn. I click this button to generate. This is very important. You've got to do this each time you create a statement. You've got to click generate so that it appears in the statement box, and then you can inspect it, okay? Lord of the first is conjunct Saturn. That's it. That's all. That's all I want to say. So I got to go and fix this because I interrupted my session. I had to start a new session. So always make sure that you're on AA criteria. Otherwise, you'll be searching through some 35, 36,000 data. Let's restrict it to accurate data, which is around 23,000. We're good to go. SRS database. And none of this will change. Like the setup that you originally did with your software, sidereal, mean nodes, North Indian, chart presentation, and Lahiri Ayanamsha. Once you do that, first time you use the software, you'll never have to do that again. But this other stuff in this box below, pay attention. Don't leave it set on all. You don't want to inspect 36,000 data, some of which have no time. You got to select AA. Okay, good to go. Hit the button. Away we go. So there's 23,000 data points. I always like to look and see when we hit the 2,300 mark, 1/10 of the way. Ding, I got 30. So I'm going to get about 300 chart examples in there. Sometimes you can see, just by looking at this, look at the 2,300 mark, which means you're 1/10 of the way through the database search. And if you already got 200, well, it's like, whoa, man, stop. That means I would have 2,000 horoscopes to look through. Too much. So then you might want to think about applying fresh criteria. Here I'm about halfway through and I've got 170 or so. So I'm going to end up with 350 horoscope examples. It's a lot. But, when it comes down to recognizable names or whatever, we're going to see maybe this is still going to give us something of utility. So there's a little waiting game here. You go and pour yourself a coffee and you come back and this is cranked its way through. It doesn't take that long. And of course, depends on the speed of your computer and all the rest of that. So just be patient and eventually, boop, it'll burp out, whatever it is that you asked for. So then the exercise begins, like how good are you at recognizing names? Well, let me scan down through here, just looking for names that I might recognize. And Jessica Biel. Well, wait, first, Bobby Beausoleil. Okay, does anybody remember Charles Manson? Well, Bobby Beausoleil was one of his buddies, one of his henchmen, one of the people that went to Sharon Tate's house that night and committed a murder of 2, 3, 4 people. So Bobby Beausoleil. Let's look. Scorpio rising, check. I asked for that. Aries or Scorpio. Where's Mars? There's Mars. Mars in Cancer, debilitated. To the point, it is with Saturn. Okay, so the ascendant lord, Mars, with a malefic Saturn, and Mars is debilitated too. I don't know. This might inform my thesis as I go along. Maybe it's already proving what I was thinking, or maybe I'm creating a thesis. Let's keep going. Jessica Biel. Okay, actress. Didn't she go out with Justin Timberlake? I'm not sure, but anyway. No matter. Also a Scorpio ascendant. Where's Mars? Here's Mars in Virgo 11th, and it's with Saturn, which is the critical thing that we wanted to see to make sure this is doing what I want it to do. And again, if I want to save, go back just a tad here, I want to save Bobby Beausoleil because this is a kind of a violence-prone individual that I think might prove my thesis. I right-click on his chart here and save chart, and then I can dump it in, put a name, file name in there, and I can dump it in that folder where I'm saving, these reprobates. Okay, Jessica Biel. Let's see if I can find anybody else I recognize. Oh, William Blatty, who wrote, gosh, I've forgotten, but some horror novels. I want to say The Exorcist. That might be right, or might be something else. But anyway, he's a novelist for sure, and he wrote horror. Oh, well, so that kind of makes sense. Scorpio rising. There's Mars in the Lugna. Oh, and there's Saturn too, which is what I need to see to know that this thing is working. So maybe I want to save that as well too, and just right-click on that and I'll get it. Let's scroll down here. Angela Davis. Does anybody remember Angela Davis? Rings a bell. You might, be a test of your memory, but here's a really cool feature. If you think you remember her, I think I remember too. She was one of the Chicago 8, she was a sort of an underground figure. Abby Hoffman and a few others, underground revolutionaries in America some 40 years ago. I think she did time. If we are in doubt about who the heck this is, here's a really cool feature. You got Angela Davis's chart displayed here. Oh, and did this fulfill? Let's see. She's in Aries rising. Good. Where's Mars? Here's Mars. And it's with Saturn. Okay, this thing is working just like it should do. Now, Angela Davis. Is this the Angela Davis I'm thinking of? Here's the cool feature. Go to this ADB button. This is AstroDataBank. This is astrodienst.com. Click on this. Oh, lo and behold, it brings it up, the entry for Angela Davis, and oh yeah, this is exactly who I was thinking of. American philosophy professor and radical activist. One of the 6 women out of 142 people who were on America's most wanted list. So sort of like a homegrown Marxist. And I don't know if they mentioned Abby Hoffman here. Anyway, it doesn't matter. She was, one of the Black Panthers. Okay, so there's the critical thing right there. This is who I was thinking of. Okay, so this kind of fits the bill. Maybe it fits, the thesis of, who I'm thinking of for this sort of, article that I might intend to write. And it goes on like that. I mean, we can scroll down further and hopefully finding, perhaps yet another name. Billy Crystal. Well, he doesn't fit the bill of the kind of violence-prone individual I'm thinking of, but did this program burp out the correct horoscope? Aries rising, yes, so Mars ruled. Where's Mars? There's Mars in Cancer with Saturn. Okay, so it fulfills the data requirement. So I could right-click, save Billy Crystal's chart if I wanted to. If I want to save everybody that I found here, I left click in this corner here, and I can copy and paste this into my spreadsheet and save that separately for something that I might want to look at later on down the road. Okay, I'm finished with that particular example. Let me do something different. So I want to clean out this. These are my 2 critical statements that I used to find those individuals. I want to clear this, click this button and clear all, and now we're going to start afresh all over again. So let's say now I'm going to look for, well, this is some research that I conducted when I was writing my most recent book, Kama Yoga. So for those of you who know, which are the Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha houses, these are those 4 are what we call the Purusharthas, or the noble goals of life. So I had a thesis that people with full-blown Purushartha themes, specifically Kama themes in their horoscopes, might be interesting case studies for the book that I was writing that was all about relationships and sexuality. So what was I looking for? A full-blown Kama Purushartha thematic chart. So what is that? So here I'm going to define it for you. It's not planet specific, it's house specific. So here's the deal. The Kama houses are houses 3, 7, and 11. What I wanted to look for was to find horoscopes wherein the Lord of the third was either in the 3rd, the 7th, or the 11th. In other words, a Kama Lord stayed within one of the Kama-Sthanas. That's criterion number 1. Criterion number 2 was Lord of the 7th would have to be in the 3rd, in the 7th, or the 11th. So again, another Kama Lord, the Lord of the 7th, must stay within the Kama house triad. Houses 3, 7, 11. Last statement would be Lord of the 7th must be in the 3rd, the 7th, or the 11th. That's it, that's all. It's a 3-line code. So we go to the Lord's field, we pull down and find 3rd, okay? What do I want of the 3rd? Well, I want it to either remain in the 3rd, go to the 7th, or go to the 11th. And that looks good. Let me just click on this and say generate and read what I've written. Lord of the 3rd is in the 3rd house, 7th house, or 11th house. Okay, that's what I intended. Let me continue. That line of code is written now. Now I can just go to my pull down and alter it and say, whoops, see typo. If I'd gone ahead now and say tick, and generate, I would have made a mistake. Well, actually, I didn't tick any of these off. Let me tick a couple of these off. Let's say I wanted the 7th and the 11th, and and I did this, and I wrote this, generated this code, and it'd say, oh, hell, that's a mistake. I shouldn't be talking about the Lord of the 6th. It's supposed to be the Lord of the 7th. So I would go back and delete this line and delete this line because I made a kind of a typo. And I'd go back and I'd fix this. Let me get this straight, man. Go to the 7th. Lord of the 7th. That's what I'm talking about. I want that Lord of the 7th to be in the 3rd, another comma house, in the 7th itself, or in the 11th. There. That looks good. Click generate. Go and inspect my statement. Lord of the 7th is in the 3rd, 7th, or the 11th. Yes, that's what I meant to say. Move on to the remaining Kama Bhava, which is the 11th. So Lord of the 11th, and I want it in the 11th, or the 7th, or the 3rd. And that looks good, and now I can generate that statement. Lord of the 11th in the 3rd, 7th, or 11th. Within each line, it's the 3rd could be, the Lord of the 3rd could be in the 3rd house, or the 7th, or the 11th. That's a complete statement. But then the next statement, these lines are connected by and criteria, for those who are kind of half familiar with coding. So Lord of the 3rd must be in 3, 7, or 11, and Lord of the 7th must be in 3, 7, or 11, and Lord of the 11th must be in 3rd, 7th, or 11th. Now this looks good. I think this is exactly what I want. I'm good to roll. I'll go back here and just check. I'm on AA data. Yes. Hit the search button, and away we go. 23,000 data points. Look for the 2,300 mark, roughly right about there. And I had 18 results thus far. Multiply by 10. I'm going to get about 180 horoscopes as examples for my Kama, full-blown Kama Purushartha theme. And, you know, you might think this is academic, but it's extremely useful. And I used this to write a chapter in this particular book, Kama Yoga, illustrating how such people have, you know, strong desires and a need and a pursuit of relationship. I mean, basically, this is what it's about. The Kama houses, if you've got this theme full-blown, it'll indicate people who are, you know, full-blown in their pursuit of pleasures, because that is what Kama means. So you start, you know, scrolling down through here, looking for names that you recognize. Susan Atkinson. Well, there's a coincidence. Susan Atkinson was one of the cohorts that hung out with Charles Manson, and actually went on this little murder raiding party along with Bobby Beausoleil. Let's look and see right away, does this prove out? Okay, so here's the 3rd house, which is Cancer. The Lord is the moon. So if this is playing out correctly, the moon should be either here, moon should be in a water sign, in Cancer, Scorpio, or Pisces. Oh, and bingo, there it is. There's the moon in the 11th house, Pisces. If I move on to the 7th house and say, that's Scorpio, the Lord should either be there, it is, or in the 3rd, or in the 11th. But there it is in its own sign. That's done. Go to the 11th house, and that's Pisces, and the Lord should be in one of these 3 houses, 3, 7, or 11. And there it is in the 3rd house. So fully fulfilled. The Lords of 3, 7, and 11 all stayed within the Kama-Sthanas triad, houses 3, 7, 11. So that one works. And if I want to, you know, copy, I right-click, save that chart into my folder for examination later, or use in my article or my book, or whatever the case may be. Let me keep on going. Philip Berrigan, that's a recognizable name to me, but I'm not going to look at him. I'm actually looking for somebody else who's better known to us all. You know, one thing I got to say is that this doesn't always, you know, burp out perfectly alphabetical, and I don't know why it does, but it does. Okay, so here's F. Scott Fitzgerald, you know, famous writer of the, you know, the Roaring 20s and 30s and 40s in America. And let's just inspect to see if this is working. So quick way to check this is just look at the triad of Libra, Aquarius, and Gemini. Those are all air signs. And so you know that the planets involved are going to be Venus, Saturn, and Mercury, and they better all be in these three signs. Well, there's none in Gemini and there's none in Aquarius. Lo and behold, they're all in Libra. Venus, Mercury, and Saturn, the lords, respectively, of the third, the seventh, and the 11th, they're all in the third. So that exactly fulfills what I'm looking for. So great. So here's another example. Fanning Dakota turns up here again. We can inspect her to make sure that that's correct. So again, air signs. And so by coincidence, here they all are. Venus, Saturn, Mercury, all packed into the 11th house this time. Cameron Diaz, there's another example. These are fire signs this time. So here we have Sun and Mars, two fire sign lords together in the third, and Jupiter, the other fire sign lord, is in the seventh. And there's nothing that matters in the 11th. We're only interested in Sun, lord of the third, Jupiter, lord of the seventh, and Mars, lord of the 11th, and make sure they stay within that triad of the Kama houses, 3, 7, 11. I'm still looking for the infamous example that I wanted to show you. And for whatever reason, see, here's a B way down here, and I'm not finding the fellow I want. And I'm just flipping through this quickly now. Patty Hearst, my goodness. That's interesting. Let's see if that it's true. So air signs, there's Saturn, there's Mercury and Venus here. And there are other planets in those houses, but that's not what matters. What we want is to ensure that the lords of those three houses remain in those particular houses. There's Ricky Martin. Sometimes this will turn up people with infamous love lives, and sometimes something else, about their artistry. So you get actors turn up here, and maybe I'm going too fast. Louis de Wohl, famous astrologer of yesteryear. These are all earth signs. So see Virgo, Capricorn, Taurus. So we're expecting to see Mercury, Venus, and Saturn. And here's Mercury and Venus and Saturn all in Capricorn. But again, significantly, they're all in the right houses. Loretta Young, famous country and western singer. Maybe I went too fast and I didn't see Russell Brand. Maybe I'm misremembering his criteria. I know he has a strong Kama theme in his chart, but maybe he doesn't have the full-blown three lord combination. But there you go. That's another example of how you can use this program to find some pretty interesting horoscopes, which you can save save the image, and if you're not sure of who you're looking at, let's say Philip Berrigan, for instance. I recognize the name, but he doesn't fulfill this sort of theme. Maybe somebody like who did I choose earlier? Dakota Fanning. Let's pick on her just for fun. Or Cameron Diaz. Let's say that she has a notorious love life, but maybe I don't quite remember that name. I can always click on that button to go to AstroDataBank.com, and there I see that's her. That's who I'm thinking of. Yeah, she's an actress and writer, fashion model. That's who I thought. Okay, I'll use her in my example. So this feature that you can, look at see the horoscope right away to see that it confirms that it's producing, the program is producing what you're actually asked it to search for. That's a great feature. See it displayed right there. But the fact that you got this little button that you can go verify a somewhat unfamiliar name and go and confirm, oh yes, this is indeed who I was thinking of, because it'll tell you right then and there. Dana Gerhardt, who is a relatively well-known Western astrologer. And again, you can confirm that by going to the AstroDeeds. Axel Harvey. Oh no, that's Alex Harvey, not Axel Harvey. Okay. I thought it was somebody I knew. Okay, anyway, you get the idea. Wonderful tool. So that's the end of demo number 2. I'm going to do one more to show some other cool things that you can do with this program as well. Come back and see that.